Hi, and welcome back to another week of Manifest in a Participatory Universe. This week we're going to be going over Chapter 5, in which we discuss the universe and the reality of the physical. Now, the reality of the physical is where we are now, where our bodies are, where the world we live in, the point that we have to go to sleep in a bed or go to sleep somewhere and have food. These are all physical things. But the reality of the physical is actually where we learn why the brain really requires a leash of some kind, because the brain is just physical matter, and it's operating by the rules of the physical world. And what that means, we discussed that a little bit in previous chapters, that there seems to be like a mirror effect from the mind when we conceptualize something, conceptualize who we are. Remember, there's an energy that is a frequency that is made up of all the frequencies, all the cells, all the organs that you are, all the energy inside you. And when we put it all together, there's sort of a core frequency of who you are. And when we look inside ourselves and we look inside our minds, that frequency is sort of purified, like it's a very much an I am sense, right? And when we think about that, and we think about the outside world, we have an inside world and an outside world. The inside world has to act first, and then that is reflected by the mirror of the outside world. We don't actually see as things happen until we see it in the outside world, but we have to choose it first to make it happen. And part of that is understanding that the function within the brain, the function, how things happen and build upon each other, seems to have a fractal like connection. And in the world around us, we see a lot of fractals. And in the Fibonacci sequence is an example of a fractal sequence that seems to keep going on, right? So talking about like the mirror theory and the holographic universe and the universal equation Z equals Z squared plus C, these ideas kind of seem diverse, right? And it's kind of how science has approached the whole thing too. There's chemistry, this is how we describe things chemically. Then there's physics, here's how we describe things, in the physical universe. There's astrophysics, here's how we describe things on the planetary scale in the physical universe. There's quantum science, right? Here's the quantum is the smallest matter of things. Here's how we describe the quantum things. There's anatomy and physiology. How does the physical body, how is it laid out? How does it work? There's biomechanics. What is the proper way for arms to move about? What is the stature of legs? There's what is the proper way you should be standing to enforce the weight going through you down to the ground? All these ideas are very diverse because in the 400 years that we have actually developed modern science, the way we did it was we noticed different aspects of the world around us, outside of us, and then we broke them apart so we can study and test those pieces. And the more specialized people get into studying and testing certain aspects, the deeper they go, the more they break it apart from everything else. And yet, everything exists simultaneously within our understanding. Everything is truly connected. You are not just a being. You are a being with chemistry inside you and organics inside you and balance inside you. And down, if we go further than that, we have the energy of atoms inside you and the vibration of particles inside you. And all these things, we go down and we go up in the scale of the world and the solar system and the galaxy, and we can keep going outward. And at each step, these things are different than the level below, but they're the same when we look at each of the pieces, right? They all form and come together. It's not separate. You are anatomy and physics and chemistry and more. I'm just going to say, and more. So what we're going to be kind of looking at here is, how does the intention affect our future? And why isn't everything we ever wanted here and now when we want it, right? This whole course is about manifesting. So if we understand that the outside world reflects what the inside world reflects, we understand that we have to fix our behaviors, fix our beliefs on the inside for them to manifest in the outside world. And when we do that, we fix that sort of fractal equation, I am happy and then I will be more happy. I set intention to be more happy. I am successful, and I set intention to be more successful. You have to have a belief first that something is true, and then it equals something more. Z equals z squared plus c. And the problem sometimes is that we get stuck in, I am this and then I will be that, when we need to actually look at the future, I will be this, and then sort of come back to the beginning of that statement. So if I say, in the future, I will be successful, and then take a step back and say, well, I guess that means I'm successful now. If I'm successful now, then I will be more successful next. See, so that's how we kind of rewrite these fractals and rewrite the holographic universe. If we make it true inside ourselves first and make the belief such that we will be the thing, and that's the thing we want, so we actually have to step back and tell ourselves, I am that thing now. And in the future, I will be more of it. What happens is the brain reconfigures its concept, its notions of what our life is like, and we start looking for examples to prove that statement to ourselves. When we look at it from a positive sense, it leads to positive circumstances. When we look at it as a negative sense, we start to actually kind of lean into negative consequences. Our brains, for survival's sake, tend toward the negative. You know, if you're out camping in Africa in the plains, you know, you have to be careful of all sorts of, I don't know, lions, rhinoceri, what can attack you out there? Lots, right? Basic survival meant judging any circumstance as if something was going to attack you. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, and I learned growing up there, we moved there from a town called Beaverton in Oregon, and when we moved in, 1989 down to Phoenix, when we moved down there, the first things we had to learn is when you pick up your shoes, shake out the shoes. Scorpions and spiders hide in the shoes. That's part of survival. We had to learn that. They aren't trying to hurt us. They aren't trying to get us. It's just that shoes are a good place for them. So you have to shake out the shoes. It's not that I think negatively, but if they stung me, it would be bad. So I prevent the negative by being proactive. That's the training, the limbic brain to keep me alive. It's very easy to pick up that sort of training. So how do we think about the future? How do we manifest what we want? First we change the inside, and then we see it reflected on the outside. And if we truly want it, then we kind of have to realize that the inner self and the outer self have a paradigm, a difference of paradigm, okay? That inner self, that mind, the I am presence, the one that is actually thinking and doing and planning and living the experience of this life. Not the physicality, not the driving unconsciously, not eating unconsciously, not doing everything unconsciously, working unconsciously, completing tasks, and sort of daydreaming all day long, but the one who is actively experiencing and doing things, living every minute of it. There's a paradigm shift there, because that inner presence doesn't really understand time, doesn't operate on a frequency of time. Time is a construct that we as a physical body have sort of made up to explain the experience that we have with day and night, and to help our body protect itself and keep it more towards safety. So if we have nothing holding us back, if our beliefs are wide open and we are ruled and guided only by that higher mind presence, that I am frequency, if we are guided by that, then, you know, maybe we could have everything we wanted. But in truth, manifestation takes time. Yes, we can imagine it in the now, and we, you, me, and our brains together, we are always in the now. We can't live in the future. We are now. The future is always next. The past is always gone. As soon as we say we are now, it was in the past, right? We can think of the future and create it in the now. Again, z equals z squared plus c. I am now. and then I will be more with intention. We understand the future is at some point beyond now, and if we want to reach it, we simply have to wait till then is now. It's not so tricky, you see, but we lack patience. The change we want takes time in the physical perception, as long as we believe we're guided by the perception of time. And that's a tricky one. Still, the inner us, the energy of consciousness which mirrors us and which we mirror, in a limited and very universal funny way, the inner us doesn't experience time. Time, like I said, it's a perception of light and being and recognition of patterns within the brain that help us move. But the inner us, the I am frequency, doesn't experience time. It's an oddity, you see. Time exists here and now for us. Time creates a place where a sequence of events can and does happen. But if nothing sees those events, does it matter? If you don't perceive that tree falling in the woods, did it make a sound? Sure, it made a sound, but if you didn't hear the reverberation of sound waves, if you didn't hear that through the ears picking up all the concussions of energy movement towards you, it doesn't matter if it made a sound or not. Well, it matters very much if you've not experienced time. If we imagine ourselves outside the confines of time, no body, no brain, no physicality, just consciousness and energy, we know, have, and are all the things we imagine, which is everything, okay, outside the confines of time. We exist as a purity, vibrating in a hum far beyond the measurements and limitations of light. Our experience is simply of being. Whoa, and then we find a place like this physicality. It's a ride. You know, we live outside of all of that when we are that I am. It's just, we are the universe. We are one with all of that, right? And then we find this experience, this ride, where we forget all the things we know. We leave an enormous part of ourselves, the huge chunk of frequency of us, that part that's outside of this physicality that continues on forever, that frequency. We leave it behind and we experience so much in a brand new way. This experience is learning. Each time we ride this experience, some of the same, some of more, because this ride keeps evolving. Every time we jump into it, it's a different situation. It's a different learning curve. It's a different experience. It's always changing for us, and we can't know it without jumping in and taking a ride. And each time we jump in, we forget all over again. We have to learn from scratch what we're doing. The ride stops. We get off. We remember who we are, and we think, oh my goodness. That was something different, right? Because a physical experience to an inner energy thing that is you is completely different. When you're not locked in a physical form, you can see and know everything. You can be part of everything. But when you get locked in a physical form, most of that is taken away from you. You have to actually stay and live through that life. Because something of energy combined with something of mass would be different. And different, if you don't experience time, if you don't feel time, the ability to have something different, to be able to see time and feel time and experience time and understand what it's like to take advantage of the limited time that you have, that's enough. That's huge. That's everything. So how do we do this, right? How do we manifest? How can we make anything we want in our lives? There's limited time to do it. So much of our power is outside of this physical form. How do we do it? If there's no time, where is the opportunity? How is the opportunity? Right? We are actually taught so that it's a core belief in this world. The harder we work, the more we'll get out of it. But we've seen from past generations in history, people living as slaves, people as indentured servitude, serfs on the land who work very, very hard and are not getting more out of it. We'd like to think that we're beyond that in the modern world, but we're not really. It's a belief that is put into our heads when we're very young in school. If you're not getting good grades, work harder. Put in more time, work harder, get better grades. If you are not making enough money, work harder. Get a second job. But that's not the way it works. Not really. Right? Because then what you're doing is you're taking this perception of time, this limited amount of time you have in this world, and you are handing it over to somebody else. You are handing over your life and your experiences and everything that you have come into this physical being to do, and you are giving it as a gift to someone else in the hope that they recognize the effort that you have put in and give you commensurate experience, opportunity, wealth. We humans can detect a great number of things, and still most of the universe is dark. Dark matter, dark energy, dark things, because the space that we have around us that illuminates our being, that illuminates everything that we are, is just a little bit of light to show what's there. What's not light is dark because we just don't know. We hypothesize. We do know that energy exists in infinite varieties, but we kind of just assume it's dark because, if you read about the theories, there's dark energy and dark matter. And maybe those two go back and forth because energy and matter are basically the same. Energy changes forms, but it's never destroyed, right? But what else is there? If there's no such thing as time, how do we move into the tomorrow that we want to build? We do! And that's enough! We don't need to try harder and control all of this experience. We are one consciousness, not the whole of reality. I am me. I control me. I am in charge of my mind, the frequency that is me. I am. I control this body. If I am not able to control this body, I still have my mind thinking for me and with me. It's kind of silly to think that I'd have to control more than that. How do I try harder in this experience? Do I try harder because I believe that trying harder will get me more of the experience? If I try harder at pushing my thoughts, at pushing my intentions on others, I'm controlling their experience. I'm pushing my beliefs on them. I'm trying to tell myself that the anger I feel is because they are not doing the things they should. I'm trying harder. They should be trying harder too. But it's not about that. I control me. I am the control of myself. I have to release the control of everything else, including the universe, including time. It isn't mine to control. It isn't yours to control. So here's an idea. What if each Earth, each you, each us, emits an energy frequency, and there are infinite varieties of frequencies, right? We've discussed this before, wherever that circle falls in the cube. Maybe right next to it is another circle, right next to it is another circle, right next to that is another circle. And each of those are different universes, different parallel ideas of what is reality, constantly occurring at the same time, past, future. Time doesn't exist on that scale. It is only energy. How it manifests is due to the one perceiving it, right? So maybe we let go of the idea that manifesting takes time. Perhaps instead of imagining it as time, we imagine it as those energies. And when we vibrate, when we create a frequency of the future we want, when we think about it in our mind, when we bring awareness to that future and build the neural pathways for it, we harmonize the experience in our minds. And the frequency, the channel, the smallest vibration things inside of us start jumping universes, just a little at a time. And quantum theory, it's the spooky entanglement. They recently had a study that they found that electrons popping in and out can be connected by this spooky force in time. So why not be popping in and out of existence in this vibration, pulling one universe closer or jumping you into another parallel universe? Because here's the deal. Time isn't real. Your brain perceives it because the amount of the refresh of the universe through your senses. But there's no reason to believe because you don't see the edit. You don't see the cut point of your life as you jump these different energy chains around the unknown universe of infinity. You can't see because you're just busy absorbing. This physical form is a receiver only for the signal. Your mind explores beyond that, but your body is here to receive the signals from the universe around it. You can't see if this were cutting to a separate universe, cutting to a different perspective, a different world. And the only way you would know is by changing the belief inside you that the universe has changed, that you can change it, and then looking for the confirmations that what you want is actually there. Now, if you don't believe that parallel universes can exist, that parallel frequencies that are super similar down to the trillionth, the quintuple trillionth of a decimal point that just happens to change a little bit, and that changes everything about your experience. If you don't believe in any of that, it's going to take you however long in this physical world for your inner self to align your desires with the outer self, and that can take time. But if you operate outside of time, if you just dismiss the idea of time altogether, then you can leap into any life you want and just start living it. All these changes are small. Tangled electrons bouncing in and out of existence. Bringing the car that you want, the woman that you want, the life that you want. You know, if you believe it and start looking for confirmations of these things, they move faster. When you just accept that time doesn't exist and parallel processing of the universe happens within you. Through our base programming, with in conscious intent, we navigate infinite frequencies to experience life. Each of us, separately and together, co-create this reality in all its ups and downs. We can choose to believe that our inner being, our consciousness, is us, a true us. But then we kind of still have to ask, who's on the outside? Are we exhibiting behaviors congruent with the true us? Or are we just exhibiting behaviors based in these survival techniques that we have learned growing up? And I hate to say it, but a small skirmish may happen as we recognize a conflict between who we think we are versus the evidence of who we are in the physical world. When we act to bring inner truths to the outside world and act in accordance to those beliefs, we step into conscious manifestation. We plug intention into the universal formula. We start shifting electrons and jumping parallel frequencies to bring us into alignment with the vibrational frequency that we choose to broadcast. When we are in alignment, we believe the world is one way, and we identify worldly evidence of those beliefs. And it takes time, you see. Because this is a funny reality based on light and this strange perception of time. And we have tricked ourselves into believing the base fundamental idea of time. What we don't have now, we will have in the future if we put in the intention. Physically, if we put in the effort to complete a physical task, the task is eventually finished. It requires intention to complete a physical task. It still requires an effort. Mentally, if we put effort in, we spin out, we spin up, we spin down, we burn out. Mental effort doesn't equal intention, right? Physically, we can build a house. Mentally, if we sit there and think about the house and think about the house and think about the house and think about the house, it doesn't build the house. It still requires an obvious momentum, an interplay, the participation in this physical universe to make it happen. Mentally, intention is recognizing our circumstance and making a choice aligned with our inner being. After that, the butterfly effect takes over. The energy of that decision is beyond the scope of this physical world. But to make that manifest, we actually have to engage with the physical world. We have to set in motion the butterfly effect, releasing and having electrons and vibrational energy move about. And that impacts us physically. How? We all vibrate on these frequencies. We think similar building block vibration energies attract and create subatomic particles, right? Subatomic particles find balance and combine into atoms. The majority of an atom is empty space. Atoms make molecules. Molecules make cells in you, which make organs and systems and all of you, right? This is the basic physical form. We are energy and emptiness. But when we reach the systems level, something interesting happens. And it starts with our heart generating a tremendous magnetic force. Every beat of our hearts pushes blood, cells, and hormones through our bodies. It also generates this powerful magnetic field. This field is another form of energy, right? We talked about fields before. The vibration of a frequency, in this case our heartbeat, creates a field, and fields influence fields around us. They attract and repulse. That's what fields do. So the magnetic field responds to the base programming of the limbic brain. And what we're kind of learning now with neuroscience is that limbic brain and the feelings generated there drive resonance of this magnetic field. And confusion and depression and anxiety, they all diminish the field effect. It pulls it in. The body conserves that energy because those are sort of, not scary, but they don't aid in survival. They're high danger points, right? They're actually very, very low depression or very low vibration energies. And with that low of vibration energy, the magnetic field actually pulls in around you. The heart pulls it in around you to protect you, to protect us. Because, the limbic brain, we're trying to always gear toward survival. So fear, anger, anxiety, these things are like high tense fight or flight sort of reactions. So we pull that magnetic field in because that could send a signal to some other thing that's hunting us. It's purely reactionary from a survivalist standpoint. On the opposite side, intent, joy, gratitude, excitement, these seem to increase the field. When we appreciate the positivity, then we are not given to the fight or flight response. We actually move out of that response into a more accepting and welcoming place, right? It's very peaceful. When we get to the point of being peaceful with everything, where we realize that people aren't doing acts to anger us, that it is simply who they are and what they are doing because they believe that they are right to be doing that. And when we realize that that is their life and we cannot impose our life onto them, we find some order of peace. When we find peace, we actually vibrate at a much higher frequency and the heart's magnetic field expands. And we also have emotional energy, feelings. Why would we have feelings that have such control over us, right? Well, what if our physical programming towards survival and efficiency necessitated feelings to create the correct physical responses that motivate us? And what if over time these feelings have been obscured, rewired, and confused? What if you thought you were anxious and your stomach was upset and you felt like throwing up? And then you asked a girl out and she said yes. See, these emotions, we confuse them because we don't always know. We tangle them up in our heads. We don't know what's going on. Imagine, okay, we are red hot and furious. Imagine our bodies release a combination of molecules and hormones and neurotransmitters to let us know how stinking mad we are. If you've been there before, even a little, it might be a little too easy to feel some of that same rush, right? In the heat of the skill, a flush, a heart rate speeds up, and maybe we get adrenaline released, a dopamine. This is fight or flight. We are furious. Okay, now stop. Breathe. We are calm. We are present and safe. There's nothing to be angry about. We're happy. We're learning. We're enjoying ourselves, right? The hormones and molecules released between those two states are different. And if you pay attention to your body, to the reaction that you have, you might notice that subtle energy change. And what we're finding is that it takes chemicals to release those emotions, to tell us what happens, right? Neurotransmitters come up from the limbic system into the neocortex, say, hey, what was that influence? What are we actually feeling here? That was an emotion. What is that emotion? Oh, the emotion looks like this. Okay, well, if the emotion is happiness, then we're going to go ahead and release some hormones that cause vasodilation, that actually your veins open up and make it easier to pass blood flow through. If it's anger or fear, you actually have vasoconstriction where the veins get smaller. If you're injured in that way, you bleed out less. Survivalist instincts, right? Well, all of those chemicals are made of molecules and atoms and energy and frequency, and the difference in the combinations of those can pull your body and the frequency. It shifts the entire base frequency of who you are. Once upon a time, we as physical beings didn't have much choice. Heck, as energy beings, if we wanted to keep riding this human body, we want to keep the physical body alive as long as possible. Survival used to be key priority, and for some, it still is. When we study past cultures, we find teachers who help move consciousness past the fight or flight. We find techniques like meditation, qigong, tai chi, yoga, acupuncture, and more to help release the fear of survival and focus on emotions and vibrations in a positive direction. Happiness, gratitude, or joy. The brain is the physical organ which controls our body, but not our mind. Our mind has to be woken up. Our mind has to be taught what it does not know. How much other stuff there is in the universe. Otherwise, it believes it can do anything and know everything when it's very much limited to only what it has seen and experienced. And we know the brain can be changed. It's never truly stuck, even when we believe so, because the brain has neuroplasticity, which is the ability to change, rewrite, reconfigure, adapt, and learn more, even unto death. It keeps changing throughout our entire life and adapting. Each time it does so, we are stumped anew as we put the pieces of our knowledge on the table and address them with this new information. If we choose to believe it and continue to act on the information, our brain has to shift. Connections that fire together, wire together for more efficient firing next time. Over and over and over, it becomes even easier. If we choose not to accept the information, we discard it. The brain makes a connection between neurons once, and then it gradually fades away with time. Maybe it's as we sleep and the physical brain is bathed in cerebral spinal fluid and it kind of washes away the remnants of these chemical transactions. Maybe dreams are the brain flushing out old, useless, or unaccepted information from our everyday experience. Because some things get wired in and some things have to be let go. This physicality cannot hold all of the input every single day that it receives. And in this world, we're giving it even more input. So what are the things that we're actually flushing out? Because see, here's the thing. The brain is driven by beliefs. Our beliefs are the rules by which our brain accepts or rejects physical stimulus: sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. It challenges our understanding of existence through learning. Our bodies attempt to keep us safe. Our brains run code in the form of beliefs based on all the input we've ever received from birth till now. It's a lot to think about, right? And some of these beliefs are deep-seated, meaning we formed them before we even knew what a belief was, before we could even speak. Beliefs translate into actions and mental, physical programs that move us forward. Some core beliefs are so well worn and deeply seated in the physical connection of neurons that our brains fight understanding, counter to the belief. These core beliefs may impact personality and perception. In the restaurant example in the last chapter, we learned how a first-time experience of something is an incomplete experience. Our perception of the event is limited by the prioritized beliefs we carry into the restaurant. When we return a second, third, or fourth time, we perceive more of the experience because our brain uses mental shortcuts to recognize, summarize, and express the experiences we've previously held, and examine any fresh stimulus which might impact our safety or satisfaction. What if we train our brain to cast out a belief in the form of judgment on the restaurant? We don't judge it. We're going to go ahead and cast out the belief of any kind of judgment. Was it a restaurant? It was a restaurant. Was it good or bad? It was a restaurant. It was an experience. I had an experience. I believe it was a pleasant experience. If we looked at things that way, would we experience the joy and excitement of the first visit on each repeat visit? No, that's not the brain work. It's not the way the brain works. No matter what, we're going to compare to a previous experience. We've already forged those neural pathways. So the next time we're going to absorb more information. Studies in brain damage and memory loss have shown that individuals with short-term memory loss may experience the joy of the first visit repeatedly. Because short-term memory loss, they've wiped out that initial experience. Simultaneously, there's evidence that the firing and wiring of neurons with consistency may trigger a response moving the experience, moving the judgment of the experience out of short-term memory and, at least partially, into long-term memory. In this case, the person may begin to have a sense of the experience despite the inability to recall it in the short term. This tells us that perception of something may both be influenced by a core belief and establish a core belief at the same time. So let me just ask, if we experience something, does that make it real? It makes it real to us, right? And it's our experience, it's our physicality. I am living my life. You are living your life. We are living our lives together, separately, but together. How we choose to see something is how we perceive it. I'll say that again. How we choose to see something is how we perceive it. But if we have an inability to judge, that is, the ability to choose a belief about the thing, then we tend to remain open, right? If we have an inability to judge, just stop, just experience, just be, then you're going to remain open. The universal formula, z equals z squared plus c, prompts our brains to compare and judge to gain direction. It wants to move in a direction, up, down, forward, right? It's always forward. In order for us to see if tomorrow is successful, we've got to compare it against today. To know if today is today, we compare it to what our brains understand of yesterday. Did we do the formula? Yes, it's today. I was that before, now I'm this now, so today is today, obviously. So holding on to an openness of judgment places no emphasis of judgment or belief. That's a hard position for a brain to be in. We can't complete the universal formula without intent, right? We have to intend to do something, to be something, to make a choice. We have to understand what our position about it is for the brain to do its physical thing. The mind doesn't need to make a choice. The brain has to make a choice because it's moving us in this survivalist tactic. But the I am within, that frequency of all that, can just exist and accept the experience. Because that's all we're really here for. That's what it's here for, just to have the experience. But the physical body, that's a little tougher because we can't choose a direction without a belief. If I eat this food, I believe that it will digest smoothly. Hopefully I chose the right restaurant, and that's a true belief. So we look to other things. Okay, we look to other things to create this perception, to create this reality. In marketing, I've always called this framing. A more extreme frame gives the brain the sensation that the smaller matter is manageable, less scary, and better. A less extreme frame gives the brain the sensation that now a larger matter will require more energy, more resources, and is harder to accept as a belief. So let me give you a quick example if I can think of one here. If all the other aspects of a car, a year, the make, model, specs, etc., if everything about it, two cars, are even, would you rather pay $120,000 or $12,000 for the vehicle? You'd probably want to pay $12,000, right? Instead of $120,000? It's a smaller number comparatively, much smaller number. That's what framing is when we think of these things. See, media, politicians, they've all been known to manipulate the public by framing problems as small compared to other enormous problems, egregious problems. Car salesmen show potential buyers extremely high-end models, so other cars seem much more reasonable. That's how they sell you. Your brain latches onto the frame of the $120,000 car and looks at it. And if it's shown a very similar model for $12,000, it will go, yes, I will take that one. I'm getting a heck of a deal. And it is a heck of a deal compared to the other one. But if that same car, we went down the street, we found the exact same make, model, year, specs, everything, and it was $1,200, you'd feel cheated. $12,000. So if personal brain reality is the result of comparisons and perception, maybe we can shift our focus from discomfort in our small lives to appreciation through acknowledgement of death and the scope of the universe. Everything is so large. We have a limited time. We have to focus on the here and now, and all of the little things people get upset about, all of the small things. Somebody cut you off in traffic. Okay. At least you're not dead. Well, you sent a package to your sister today, and it's supposed to get there, or you sent a package to your sister 3 days ago, and it was supposed to get there today, and it's not there. Well, you're not sending it to Mars. That would take 7 months. So I guess another day might not be bad, right? The perception of the frame is how you shift your belief in reality. So if belief powers perception and perception creates reality, then we've got to understand how beliefs shape our reality. We will not perceive what we do not want to receive. We will actively block it. We will not perceive what our brains understand as non-threatening and static, a pattern in our experience, like a houseplant, right? If you've ever done this, you can put a plant out and walk past it a month, and unless you actively take the task of watering it or taking care of it, it could die because you walk past and it is non-threatening and static. It completely goes away. That does not mean the issue, or plant in this case, does not exist. Only that it does not exist in a way that needs to be recognized to us. Experience is personal. We experience life individually through the mirror of the physical world. Inside, we have many of the same programs, feelings, and worries. Throughout time, we've had the same programs, feelings, and worries. We repeat cycles, forget them, and repeat them again. God, I wish we would actually learn. We live with the belief of uniqueness and view of ourselves in a reality that's unlike any other, and yet the human experience is one that's been shared millions of times over countless centuries. It is the human experience. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. So the challenge is not simply to exist, pay bills, and make it into tomorrow. The challenge is to recognize the inner and deep beliefs that take you out of alignment with who you want to be, with the alignment of who that inner I am frequency is trying to be, who you deserve to be, and who your inner self is hoping you become. Now, confronting these beliefs, I think, is unnecessary. Confronting means looking at it and pounding it into submission. I really think if we just rewrite them and activate the universal formula in a different manner, and it'll be sufficient. Instead of saying z equals z squared plus c, z equals z squared plus c, I am blank, and next I will be blank with intention. Okay? If it's moving in the physical world, I am here now, and next I will be there now by the speed of light. You know, it's the speed of light through our eyes that shows us the change over time. So if we just take that and we say, instead of saying, how you feeling? I'm depressed. Because the brain hears that as, I am depressed now. And then I will be more depressed because that is the intention I give it. If we rewrite that instead of confronting it, I don't need to confront depression and say, down, down, bad, bad dog, stay, sit, stay. Instead, if I just rewrite and say, I am working on being a better person. And next, I'm going to keep working on being a better person, and I am putting intention into being a better person. That's enough. Just rewriting these sayings with that formula is enough to make a shift. Because when we make these transitions, when we use this formula to say, instead of where we are now, maybe we place it in the future, the z squared variable. Let's go ahead and put wealthy in for z, okay? I am wealthy, and next I will be more wealthy with intention, right? If we take the future state and we kind of rewrite it and say, this is where we are now, wherever we want to be, use that as the variable in the formula and drop it into the beginning as well, because if it's a z, it's a z, and you're already there. You're just not observing the effects of it. But if we rewrite that formula and we say it to ourselves, we write it down, I am wealthy, and next I will be more wealthy with intention. Then suddenly the brain goes, well, that's our formula. Okay. Wow, what do I do with that? Well, neuroplasticity takes over. The physical drive for efficiency takes over. Those old beliefs don't need to be confronted if they can simply cease to be the truth and be replaced with the belief of greater reality that the brain then, once it has visualized and connected those neurons and started moving forward with it, it does something really interesting. It commits to it. What we believe, we perceive. What we perceive, we believe. And we commit to our beliefs because we believe it will protect us and move us up the chain of happiness. The more we choose to believe and perceive, the more we choose to perceive and believe, the more we commit to this reality, the more our brains actually look for cues that reinforce all of the beliefs, all of the perceptions, and move us even higher into frequency in alignment with that. Commitment, however, also has the capability of rewriting core personal beliefs. Groups of people who believe the same things form a community. They commit to holding their beliefs together because together is safer than separate. Even if one's anti-violent, a community protecting their beliefs can be known to take extreme actions to protect their community and beliefs. That's the power of commitment. That's the power of community. That's the power of safety and the base struggle for survival, right? We have to be very cautious about who we let into our commitment circles, who is part of our community, because if we are trying to be positive and raise our frequency and be energetically helpful to others and just generally be a good person, if we're part of a wrong group who, even if they hold the same beliefs, distort them, it becomes dangerous for us. You know, as an example, what effect do the Crusades have on cultural relations? You know, why might those knights have taken a quest to go into the Holy Land? And gosh, what beliefs might have driven all their personal behavior to leave their family, their farm, their food, their safety, to travel hundreds of miles to fight somebody else? Religion, power, promises, belief, right? And then sometimes we commit a bit hard. Sometimes we're really rigid in our belief. And the more that people try to convince us that we're wrong, the more we are going to double down on that belief. The more that we double down on that belief, the more we're going to believe it even deeper. The more we are going to look for examples of exactly that belief and knock out all the examples against that belief. Now, when that happens, how much the world might be excluded from our perception? What beliefs about money, control, or happiness exclude possibilities from your perception? We might look to intentionally shift the universal formula at the basis of perception. What if we say, I am experiencing a reality with multiple amazing possibilities? Next, I will be experiencing a reality with even more multiple amazing possibilities. What does that look like? What does that feel like? I'll tell you, it is actively choosing to perceive yourself not as a particle, but as a beam, right? The split beam experiment. It is choosing to see that all of the possibilities that you are dealing with, that you are experiencing, that you are living through, all of the future tomorrows are not a particle. It is not one thing that will follow exactly from where you are, but it is a wave. It is a beam. It is opportunities galore in front of you, if you allow it to be that way. And if you do not, if you narrow that scope, if you commit too hard and the belief is solid, you have narrowed all of the options of that wave particle, of all of that into the one, into a single slit experiment, right? So can we use the vibrations of positive emotion to anchor intention and energy into the universal formula? Sure. Sure we can. What if we imagine an amazing tomorrow that makes us happy, and we set the intention to move toward that tomorrow? If we imagine tomorrow and recognize today, and then act in accordance with our intention, we move toward our goals. Actions are the physical world's manifestation of belief through behaviors. If we are angry, our behavior and actions become imbued with an emotional energy of that state. The vibrational energy we resonate attracts other vibrational matches aligned with our intention. So we would probably find more people who want to be angry with us. If we align behavior and actions with our intention and inner being, the vibrational energy we resonate attracts other vibrational matches aligned with our intention. The I am frequency. If we align with the inner self that we choose to be in our mind, and we set our behaviors in alignment with who we want to be from the inside out, that dictates our actions will be in alignment with our behaviors. Which, funny enough, we can't see the shaping of our personality. Day after day, hour after hour, the behaviors and the actions, we can't see what the personality is. We are locked inside of ourselves. We are limited in how we can actually observe that. We judge ourselves from the inside out, but we don't know what that actually looks like. The confusion of me, us, brain, mind, and awareness make it difficult to see the full shape of the physical and energetic being we are actually becoming day after day. but others see it. And they judge, because that's what brains do to categorize a belief, right? They judge. They want to create a belief about us, who we are, what we do, how we feel, how we act. They want to judge us. Are we going to be detrimental to them? Are we something they have to make, safe judgments and keep distance from? Every day, we make snap judgments, beliefs about people, places, things, because in a me-first, survival as priority physical world, that's what we do to remain safe and alive. This is the untrained brain believing self, mind, and body are one. That we are all the same and should run on the same rules and recognize the same reality. This is pure ego, pushing others away in the need to be right, in a crusade to hold the strongest beliefs and battle off any competition. But we're not in that competition. And observers with trained brains recognize that personality as one suffering in lack. Fighting for every scrap, because beliefs claim it must be so, is not part of the trained brain. It's part of scarcity mindset. It's part of feeling hurt and trying to protect yourself, trying to protect ourselves, right? So we take these actions that are insane to get attention because we don't feel like we're getting enough attention, and we take steps that push ourselves onto others until the point comes when we reflect on that. And I honestly think that I've gone through this sort of experience the last couple of years, reflecting on who I am and who I want to be. Opening my own business helped me kind of reach that point. And I realized, if we don't want to be perceived a certain way, which most of us don't, most of us have an idea of how we want to be perceived, and it's not in a bad way. Some of us like being jerks. Some people are so caught up on themselves, they just don't care about others. Their beliefs inform them that self-focused is the best way to survive. But that's not all of us. Some of us want to evolve, and that means reframing the base universal formula. It means acknowledging others outside of ourselves as equals and an integral part of this participatory physical world. Remember, every driver in the freeway traffic jam is just as exasperated as you, and we're all making the best of the situation together. It means seeing death as a necessary part of life to give scope every day, to feel appreciative, to feel grateful, because death is the great frame that ends the physicality and releases the vibration of whatever frequency from within you that got stuck in the physical world. It means figuring out what you want to be in the future, so you can set intention to go there in the time that you have left, however long that might be. It might mean confronting the realization that our current beliefs will not get us to the destination we want, and that we need new beliefs to take the next step in the journey, and then being brave enough and committed enough to take those steps. But that's not easy. Intention is a choice. Waking up is a choice. Reprogramming the universal equation from the defaults of negativity and survival to positivity and thriving is a choice. Choices like this need to get built into neurological connections and reinforced. Our brain looks for recognition of the choice in physical examples after it's processed it, to verify the truth of the universal equation that we've thought through. Over time, choices become automatic actions, and the default beliefs start to wash away. With beliefs, perception, and behaviors shifting, reality begins to look and feel very different. Reality starts to resemble the shift in universe, the shift in frequencies, because we start to pick up the things that we want and we know are true from different beliefs. So to summarize, time both exists and really doesn't exist, depending on your perspective. Also, depending on your perspective, every moment you experience is a gateway through parallel dimensions. Emotions create chemical signals that influence the body frequency. The heart creates a powerful electromagnetic field that expands and contracts with emotions and frequency. It's possible to change your perception of reality by changing your beliefs and committing to those new beliefs. In this way, we shift frequencies and experiential dimensions. We support these spooky connections of subatomic particles and frequencies across all the parallel dimensions to help pull us, tiniest piece by tiniest piece, up to the frequency that we want to imbue ourselves with, the frequency that is truly us from the inside out. So this week's assignment is you're going to assemble the pieces of the vision movie that you've got, and you're going to do this in PowerPoint or Keynote, and I would say do it in a 1920 by 1080 or a widescreen format. And what you're going to do is you're going to take the emotions and the emotional states and the emotional statements that you've come up with, and you're just going to put those in like a 50 or 60 point text right in the center of the screen, pretty large and bold, white, black outlines, okay? Like a 3 to 5 point outline. Put a drop shadow on it, make it easy to read. Okay, you don't need punctuation. Do one slide per statement. And in the background of each slide, put one of your pictures. Put a picture that represents that goes with the emotion, that represents the thing you want or the thing you want to manifest. Make it take up the entire slide, make it large. Crop it to focus on certain areas of the picture if you want to. You don't need to use every image that you found. Sometimes less is more. Sometimes the image isn't clear enough and you've got to find another image. That's okay. Sometimes the image leads to the wrong thoughts when you put it in context. And that's a cue that you should just get rid of it. Because if it's leading you to the wrong thoughts in context, that's what we don't want. We're trying to activate the limbic, the subconscious, the beyond, the points of thought beyond words and rational thought. And to do that, we have to make sure that the images in the text evoke the right emotions. We are actively trying to put together the idea of the emotions and the chemical frequency of emotions with the image, so that when you feel these emotions, you will start to look for images around you in the physical world that are similar to the one that you have programmed into your brain through this vision movie. See? So the stronger the emotions created, the stronger the neurological path becomes and the more likeliness of neuroplastic change. Now, there's no limits to the slides, so create the right visual message for your brain to believe that this is your life, which means that some of these images that you're putting in the background should be of you. You know, we've already found a bunch of images of you. We found images of the life you want to be. It is even more powerful to your brain when you mix up images of you and images of the future and images of the past and that you have been in and that you have experienced. When you combine your entire life like this, it looks like to your brain you are living this entire experience. And that's what we're trying to get, so that your brain cannot tell and it just becomes automatic that you start doing this stuff. All right, if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments on the page, and I thank you guys very much. And next week is the last of these, so I look forward to talking to you then. All right, guys, bye.